About a week ago, we got some interesting news for the Android world. It's actually a story we already covered about how the Pixel 10, arguably the most divisive Pixel phone in quite some time, has somehow set a new single-month sales record in the US, which is very strange to me. Wasn't this the phone that had the entire online tech community, including myself, locked in about how underwhelming this device was? With the underperforming Tensor G5, underperforming cameras, a strange launch event, and arguably the worst value per dollar against its main competitor, that being the latest iPhone. These were the talking points that relentlessly plagued the Pixel 10 series, yet it seems to be an overwhelming success for Google, seeing a 28% increase in sales compared to the same time last year, which is absolutely insane. Well, over the past week, I've been spending a lot of time processing this information, and honestly, the sales numbers are the final proof of a hard truth that I've been feeling for quite some time now. Pixel phones are not meant for the tech enthusiast anymore. To me, tech enthusiasts are people like us that actually view tech as a hobby. We watch tech videos on YouTube, we follow the specs, the latest releases, we care about the benchmarks, the specific processor in our device, the RAM, and having the fastest possible components even if we don't necessarily need them. We want the freedom to mod, hack, and deeply customize our devices. I think you get my point. Tech enthusiasts are deeply engaged with smartphones and are well versed in their benefits. The average consumer, on the other hand, is a completely different beast. They look at tech, especially smartphones, more like a tool or an appliance. To a lot of these people, smartphones are just a means to an end. They want to take a photo once in a while of a document, a vacation, or their kids maybe. They want just enough performance for social media and decent battery life that can at least get them through the day, even if they have to use power save mode. They want something affordable, easy to use, and generally something that doesn't actively get in the way of them completing a task. And more often than not, when I ask the average person if they've ever heard of Pixel before, they never ever say, yeah, the Tensor G5 is so slow. Typically, what I'm hearing instead is, yeah, I heard it has great cameras. Yeah, I held it in a store and it feels really nice. Or, yeah, I tried it and the home screen is really simple. These are real statements that I've gotten from real people in my life that literally don't care about smartphones like we do. And to me, this is exactly the target market that Pixel is going for, which is definitely creating a massive disconnect in the community. On one hand, we have enthusiasts like me that are a little bit frustrated the Pixel 10 series did not go far enough, and on the other hand, we have the everyday user that's just happy they got a relatively nice phone on sale. And while this realization is a bit sad, at least to me, I do understand why we're seeing this shift in the first place. A lot of brands start their journey catering to enthusiasts like the original Pixel, but once they maximize that arguably small group of users, they then switch to the mass market. When this does happen, the priorities fundamentally shift from establishing yourself in the space to mass profit and scale. And if you've seen Google's strategy in the US as of late, you would know they are playing the mass profit and scale game almost perfectly. If you've been paying attention to the US market, you would know it's a very particular situation when it comes to buying smartphones. Everywhere else in the world, you typically buy an unlocked phone directly from a manufacturer and then add it onto your phone plan. Because of that, there's just so much competition, lots of brands are visible, and in general, it's a very common occurrence. Meanwhile, the United States is pretty much the exact opposite. The number one place most people buy their phones is through their immediate carrier like AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile. They walk into a store or they go to the company website, get a quote-unquote upgrade for their phone, which is really just adding the cost of the device into their monthly bill, and in 2 years, we do the cycle all over again. Google is most likely very aware of this practice, and in order to reach that 28% increased sales figure, they've been utilizing these strategies pretty harshly. First and foremost is the carrier channel. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, Pixels are overpriced or they're not worth the MSRP, and you would be 100% correct in saying that, except the US market rarely ever looks at phones at the full MSRP price, and instead they look at the monthly installments. So if you take my personal carrier, AT&T for example, ever since the Pixel 10 has been released, they've been running some kind of promotion, let's say 90% of the time. When I upgraded in September, they were offering the Pixel 10 and Pixel 10 Pro XL free on monthly installments, which means they just give you a credit back on your bill. Right now, at the time of this recording, the Pixel 10 is on sale for $8 a month with no trade-in whatsoever. Black Friday is still weeks away, mind you, and they're already selling the phone over $500 off, so I can't imagine how much cheaper it's going to be when the holidays are in full swing. So if you're a parent looking to get your entire family new phones, yeah, everyone might want iPhones, but when they're effectively giving Pixels away for free that do everything good enough compared to an iPhone, which one are you going to pick as someone who has to pay the bill? That situation is repeatable so many times over. If someone upgrades and their carrier is offering a Pixel for free, why would the average consumer not at least strongly consider a Pixel device, especially if you don't care about the intricate details of smartphones? Another reason I think Pixel is doing so well in the US is because of the massive lack of competition. When the average consumer walks into an AT&T store, they don't see the latest Xiaomi 15 Ultra with its 200 megapixel periscope lens, display on the back, and 100-watt charging. They don't see the Apple Find X9 Pro and its massive 7500 mAh battery and 120 times zoom, or the OnePlus 15 and its 165 Hz display, also with a massive battery. When a US consumer walks into their carrier store, they see Apple, Samsung, Google, some Motorola phones, and flip phones. They don't even get a chance to see how other brands would absolutely murder what we have on offer here in the States. Because of that, I feel it creates a variety problem where if an average consumer doesn't like Apple or Samsung and just wants a simple Android phone, Pixel is effectively their only choice, at least in store. Finally, another reason I feel Pixel has been doing so well in the States is because of their massive marketing initiatives. It's no secret Google is spending a fortune putting the Pixel name everywhere it possibly can. I'd argue it probably costs them more in advertisement than it does with the actual development of the phone itself. We've seen huge advertisements for the Super Bowl, the NBA, and Formula One. Pixel is the official mobile partner for Liverpool FC. There's dozens of TV ads and social media campaigns with major celebrities like Drewski and Keke Palmer just to promote this phone and its AI features. So with all that combined, the carrier deals, the limited competition in the market, the big advertising campaigns, it's all coming together to make Pixel the most accessible and recognized device consumers have seen in quite some time, which is how I think it's gaining so much traction despite what the enthusiasts are saying. And listen guys, don't misunderstand the point of this video. I think it's perfectly valid, and in fact I encourage enthusiasts to keep giving feedback and vocalizing ways that Pixel improve. I know we've seen a lot of pushback on the latest Pixel 10 series, and personally I do think it comes from a good place. Anyone that watches our videos likely loves Pixel so much, and understandably we want it to be better than any other brand out there, so I do get it. Personally, I want Pixel phones to be the most efficient, have the best performance, have the best battery life. I want Pixel phones to be the undisputed king of smartphone value, so I can rub it in everyone's faces that I have the best smartphone ever. But it's clear to me at this point, Pixel phones aren't meant for the bleeding edge enthusiast. Instead, at least right now, Google seems to be primarily focused on building a phone that is good enough for the massive average consumer market. And at this point, I'm actually totally fine with it. I was still in denial about the Tensor G5. I was angry once the performance numbers came out, but now after seeing the sales figures, I've come to a state of acceptance. The reason I'm so accepting of this new strategy from Google is because at the end of the day, Android is and has always been about options. Right now, at least in the United States, there is a desperate need for a mass market Android phone that's super cheap and can be a go-to pick for anyone that's new to the Android brand, or for those that really don't care about what phone they're holding in their hand, they just want something simple that works well. And if Google wants Pixel to be that type of device, then I fully support them, no questions asked. At the end of the day, I want Android to be more successful than iOS here in the States. I want the Pixel brand to grow to the point of being mainstream, and it seems like from here on out, this is the way that Google's going about this. Selling devices that are affordable, assuming you get it on sale, which is absolutely mandatory in my opinion, with huge marketing budgets, while they tune each new release more and more for the mass market. Unfortunately, I think that does mean I'm not the target audience, at least right now. Personally, I do want high-end performance, high-end gaming, the best cameras, and based on some of the community responses to the Pixel 10 launch, I'm definitely not the only one. To that, I would say this: if you're an enthusiast looking for a new home, be at least open to trying something new. Lately, I've been diving deep into virtual reality with the Galaxy XR, and as of the past week, the Meta Quest 3. Those kind of devices, no doubt, have been scratching that enthusiast itch I've been craving to satisfy for so long. In the future, I do plan to import and talk about more Chinese phones on the channel so that I can experience the absolute bleeding edge tech. For handheld gaming, I totally understand that Pixel underperforms, and all I can say is I'd personally be happier with a Nintendo Switch, a Steam Deck, or one of the dozens of mainstream mobile gaming devices out there these days. Especially after seeing the sales numbers and simply just asking about Pixel to the average consumer in real life, it's clear that the majority of Pixel purchases aren't because of Tensor or gaming or the camera tech. Hardware is definitely not the selling point of Pixels right now, and really it's the brand. It's the package. It's the whole total experience. Because of that, I think I'm going to reframe my perspective on who Pixel is for from here on out. I don't think it's healthy as a tech enthusiast to be constantly harping on what a device is not, and instead it's more productive to focus on what a device is. A solid phone for the average everyday person. But my friends, those are just my thoughts, and this is a really good topic to bring over to you guys now. If you're an enthusiast or an average consumer, what do you think of Google's current strategy with Pixels? Is this something that you can see yourself staying with for the long term, or are you eventually going to get bored and move to something more bleeding edge? Leave a comment down below, as I'm really curious to hear what the Android community is thinking. And until next time, this has been Jordan Floyd from 9to5 Google. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.